Imagine coming home on a Tuesday night. It's a cold December evening. You've been out with friends, playing a weekly game night, trying to unwind after a long week. You drive into your driveway, the headlights sweeping across the garage door. It looks like a normal night. The house is quiet. Too quiet. You walk inside, calling out your wife's name. Betsy? Betsy, I'm home. No answer. You walk into the living room. The TV is off. The dog is whining, and then you see it. Your wife is lying on the floor. But she isn't just lying there. It looks like a horror movie. There is a knife. There is blood everywhere. It looks like the most violent, tragic suicide you could possibly imagine. Your brain breaks. You panic. You grab your phone, your hands shaking so hard you almost drop it. And you dial 911. You scream into the phone. My wife killed herself. She killed herself. You are sobbing. You are terrified. You are heartbroken. But when the police arrive, they don't see a grieving husband. They don't see a tragedy. They see a suspect. They look at you and they decide right then and there, within minutes of arriving, that you are a liar. They decide that you did this, and why? Because of a friend. A friend who is standing just outside the crime tape. A friend who is whispering in the detective's ear. A friend who tells them, "Oh, he has a temper. Oh, he threatened her. Oh, she was afraid of him." This friend will sit in the courtroom, front and center, watching you get sentenced to life in prison for a crime you didn't commit. She will smile at you while you are led away in handcuffs. And then, she will walk out of the courthouse, cash out your wife's life insurance policy, and go buy a new house. This sounds like the plot of a Hollywood thriller. It sounds like fiction. But it is not. This is the terrifying, infuriating, and absolutely true story of Russ Faria. And the woman who played the role of the concerned neighbor while hiding a devil behind her eyes. Pam Hupp. If you think you know how deep human manipulation can go, you are wrong. This story is going to make you question who you trust. It is going to make you question the justice system. And it is going to show you what happens when a psychopath decides to write their own screenplay of death. Before we dive into this web of lies, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. We are about to walk into a courtroom where nothing is what it seems. Part 1. The Perfect Alibi. Let's go back to December 27th, 2011, Troy, Missouri. A small, quiet town where everyone knows everyone. Betsy Faria is fighting a battle. She has terminal cancer. It has spread to her liver. The doctors have given her months to live. She is weak, she is tired, but she is surrounded by people who love her. Her husband, Russ Faria, is doing his best to care for her, but it's hard. Caregiving is exhausting. On this particular Tuesday, Russ has a plan. He is going to his weekly game night with friends. It's his one night off. He asks Betsy if she's okay. She says yes. But Betsy isn't alone that evening. She is with her best friend, Pam Hupp. Now, who is Pam Hupp? Pam is the kind of person who is always involved. She's the neighbor who knows your business. She's the one who organizes the charity drive. She presents herself as the pillar of the community. She had been driving Betsy to her chemotherapy appointments. She was the shoulder to cry on. On this night, Pam insists on driving Betsy home from her mom's house. She insists on making sure she gets inside safely. She is the last person to see Betsy Faria alive. Russ comes home later that night and finds the nightmare scene we described. He calls 911, and this call becomes the first nail in his coffin. When you listen to the 911 call, you hear a man in absolute hysteria. He says, "I think she killed herself." Now, why would he say that? Betsy had been depressed about her cancer diagnosis. She had talked about not wanting to wither away. To Russ, in that moment of shock, suicide was the only explanation that made sense. But the police arrive, and they see stab wounds. Not one, not two. 55 stab wounds. And the knife is still in her neck. The police look at the scene. Suicide? Impossible. Nobody stabs themselves 55 times, so if it's not suicide, it's murder. And who is the first suspect in every spousal murder? The husband. The detectives take Russ into custody immediately. They put him in a small, windowless interrogation room. And they start grinding him down. "Why did you say suicide?" They ask. "You knew she was dead before you walked in." They yell. "Tell us why you did it, Russ. Was it the cancer? Were you tired of taking care of her?" Russ is bewildered. He keeps saying, "I didn't do it. I was at game night." I have 4 friends who can verify I was there. We watched movies. We played games. Check the receipt from Arby's. I bought food on the way home. His alibi is solid. It is rock solid. He has time-stamped receipts. He has GPS data on his phone. He has eyewitnesses. Physically, it was impossible for Russ to be at the house when the murder happened. But the police ... they have blinders on. They are suffering from confirmation bias. They have decided Russ is guilty, and they are ignoring any evidence that proves he is innocent. And the reason they are so sure, because Pam Hupp told them a story. Part 2. The witness who spun a web. The detectives interview Pam Hupp the next day, and Pam ... Pam is a masterclass in manipulation. She doesn't just come out and say, Russ killed her. No, that would be too obvious. She plays the reluctant witness. She sits there, sipping a soda, acting calm, almost bored. She says things like, well, I don't want to say anything bad about Russ, but ... and then she drops a bomb. But he did have a violent temper. But he did say he wished she would just die already. But Betsy was afraid of him. She told me she was thinking of leaving him. She paints a picture of a marriage that is falling apart. She paints Russ as a monster who is tired of his sick wife. And the police eat it up, they swallow every single word. But there is one massive, glaring problem. 4 days before the murder, just 4 days, Betsy Faria changed the beneficiary on her life insurance policy. Originally, the $150,000 policy was set to go to Russ, to help him take care of their daughters. But suddenly it was changed, to who? To Pam Hupp, $150,000. When the police ask Pam about this, she shrugs. She says, oh, Betsy wanted me to have it. She wanted me to set up a trust fund for her daughters because she didn't trust Russ with the money. Think about this. A woman with terminal cancer signs over her life savings to a friend she hasn't known that long, cutting out her husband and children 4 days before she is brutally murdered. In any other investigation, this would make Pam Hupp suspect number 1. This is motive 101, but the police are so fixated on Russ that they view this as more evidence against him. Their theory becomes, Russ found out Betsy changed the policy to Pam. He got angry. He killed her in a rage. It makes 0 sense. If Russ knew the money was gone, why kill her? He gains nothing. But logic has left the building. The prosecutor, Leah Askey, decides to charge Russ Faria with first-degree murder. Part 3. The Kangaroo Court. The trial of Russ Faria begins in November 2013, and it is a circus. The prosecutor's entire case rests on 2 things. 1. Russ's weird 911 call. 2. The testimony of Pam Hupp. Russ's defense attorney, Joel Schwartz, is a bulldog. He knows his client is innocent. He has the receipts. He has the GPS. He has the alibi witnesses. He stands up in court and tries to point the finger at the real suspect. He tries to say, look at Pam Hupp, look at the money. Look at the fact that she was the last person to see her alive. But the judge ... the judge blocks him. The judge rules that the defense is not allowed to present evidence pointing to Pam Hupp as a suspect. They call it third-party culprit evidence, and the judge shuts it down. So, the jury is not allowed to know about the life insurance change in detail. They are not allowed to know about Pam's contradictions. Hupp takes the stand. And this is where it gets chilling. She is confident. She is arrogant. She tells the jury stories about how Russ was abusive. But her stories keep changing. In one version, she dropped Betsy off and saw Russ waiting. In another, she didn't. But the jury believes her. Why? Because she looks like a soccer mom. She looks like a nice lady from the Midwest. She doesn't look like a butcher. The prosecutor mocks Russ's alibi. They say his friends are lying to cover for him. They say the timestamps could be faked. They weave a fantasy timeline where Russ somehow drove home at the speed of light, killed his wife, cleaned up, even though there was no cleanup evidence, and then pretended to find the body. The jury deliberates. And on November 21, 2013, they return a verdict. Guilty. Russ Faria collapses. His daughters are screaming in the courtroom. He is sentenced to life in prison plus 30 years. And sitting in the gallery, watching it all? Pam Hupp. She doesn't look sad. She doesn't look relieved. She looks ... satisfied. Part 4. The journalist and the retrial. Russ goes to prison. He is stripped of his freedom, his name, and his life. But he doesn't give up. And neither does his lawyer, Joel Schwartz. While Russ is sitting in his cell, the world starts to look at the case closer. A journalist named Chris Hayes from Fox 2 St. Louis starts digging. He looks at the files. He looks at the insurance. He interviews Pam Hupp, and he realizes this woman is lying. Then, things start to get weird for Pam. The money, the $150,000 meant for Betsy's daughters? Pam kept it. Betsy's daughters sued her, saying, "That money was for us." Pam said, in a deposition, "No. Betsy gave it to me. I can do whatever I want with it." She admitted, under oath, that she never intended to give the money to the daughters. She kept every penny. This deposition was a smoking gun. It proved she lied to the police about the trust fund. It proved she had a financial motive. Russ Faria appeals his conviction. And in a rare moment of justice, the appeals court looks at the case and says, this trial was a disaster. They overturn the conviction. They order a new trial. And this time the judge says, you can present evidence against Pam Hupp. The retrial happens in 2015. It is a bloodbath for the prosecution. Joel Schwartz tears Pam Hupp's story apart. He shows the GPS data proving Pam was at Betsy's house much later than she claimed. He shows the text messages Pam faked to make it look like Betsy was alive. He shows that Pam Hupp was the beneficiary of the money. The new judge bench trial. No jury this time listens to the evidence. And the judge asks the detective a simple question. Did you ever investigate Pam Hupp? The detective says, no. The judge is stunned. The verdict comes back fast. Not guilty. Russ Faria is a free man. He walks out of the courthouse into the sunlight. He hugs his daughters. He hugs his lawyer. He has won. But here's the terrifying part. Russ is free. But the police still don't arrest Pam Hupp. The prosecutor, Leah Askey, refuses to charge her. She doubles down. She says, I still think Russ did it. Pam Hupp is still walking free. She is still living in her house. She still has the money, and she is angry. She is angry that Russ got out. She is angry that people are looking at her. She feels the heat rising. So what does a psychopath do when they feel cornered? They create a distraction. Part 5. The Stranger in the Driveway, August 16, 2016. O'Fallon, Missouri. It's a hot summer day. Pam Hupp is sitting in her SUV plotting. She needs to get the heat off herself. She needs to prove that Russ Faria is dangerous. She needs to frame him again. She comes up with a plan so diabolical, so insane, that it defies belief. She decides to find a stranger, a random person, lure them to her house, kill them, and then plant evidence to make it look like Russ Faria hired a hitman to kill her. She drives around town looking for a victim. She approaches a woman, offering money for help. The woman gets a bad vibe and runs away. She keeps driving. She finds a man named Louis Gumpenberger. Louis is a vulnerable man. He had been in a car accident years ago that left him with severe physical and mental impairments. He walks with a limp. He is slow to process things. Pam pulls up to him. She says, I'm a producer for Dateline NBC. We are doing a story. I need you to help me reenact a 911 call. I'll give you $1,000. Louis, trusting and needing the money, agrees. He gets into her car. She drives him to her house. She tells him to wait. She calls 911. And she puts on a performance. She screams into the phone, help. Someone is breaking into my house. He has a knife. He says he wants Russ's money. She hangs up. She walks over to Louis Gumpenberger, who is sitting in her front hall, probably confused, probably waiting for his instructions, and she shoots him. She shoots him 5 times. She kills an innocent, disabled man in cold blood. Then she takes a note she had written herself and plants it in his pocket. The note says something like, asterisk, take Hupp back to the house. Get the money. Russ Faria says take care of her. Asterisk, she puts $900 in his pocket. She waits for the police. When the cops arrive, she plays the victim again. Oh, thank God you're here. Russ sent a hitman to kill me. See? See the note? This proves Russ is the killer. She thought she was a genius. She thought this would close the case forever, but she made a mistake. A massive mistake. Part 6. The House of Cards falls. The police investigate Louis Gumpenberger. They realize something immediately. Louis Gumpenberger physically could not have attacked her. He could barely walk. He couldn't hold a knife properly. The idea of him being a hitman was laughable. Furthermore, the $900 in his pocket? The serial numbers on the bills matched the serial numbers of bills found in Pam Hupp's dresser. She had paid him with her own money. And then the GPS on her phone. It showed her driving around his neighborhood, hunting for a victim, for 45 minutes before she picked him up. The police finally woke up. The new prosecutor, Mike Wood, looked at the evidence and said, "This woman is a serial killer." They arrested Pam Hupp, not for Betsy Faria initially, but for the murder of Louis Gumpenberger. While sitting in the interrogation room, Pam Hupp did something strange. When the officer left the room, she pulled a pen out of her purse, and she started stabbing her own neck. She tried to kill herself right there in the police station using a ballpoint pen. Why? Because the game was over. She knew she had lost control. The officers rushed in and stopped her. Part 7. The final verdict. Pam Hupp was charged with the first-degree murder of Louis Gumpenberger. Facing the death penalty, she took a plea deal. She entered an Alford plea, which means she doesn't admit guilt, but admits the state has enough evidence to convict her. She was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. But the story isn't over, because justice for Betsy Faria was still waiting. In July 2021, armed with all the new evidence, the prosecutors officially charged Pam Hupp with the murder of Betsy Faria. The theory is now clear. Pam killed Betsy for the money. She waited until Russ was gone. She stabbed her friend 55 times to make it look like a crime of passion, which usually points to a spouse. She dipped Betsy's socks in her own blood and walked them around the house to stage the scene. She removed her shoes to avoid leaving footprints. And then she sat back and watched Russ take the fall. Today, Pam Hupp sits in a maximum security prison. She is a woman who thought she was smarter than everyone. She thought she could write the script, cast the villain, Russ, play the hero, herself, and direct the police. And for 5 years, she did, but she forgot one thing. Lies have an expiration date. And you can only play God for so long before the devil comes to collect his due. Russ Faria eventually received a $2 million settlement for wrongful conviction. But no amount of money can buy back the years he lost. No amount of money can erase the image of his wife's best friend smiling at him in court while she held the knife that killed his wife figuratively and literally. This story is a warning. It is a warning about how easily the justice system can be manipulated by a convincing liar. It is a warning that sometimes the monster isn't hiding in the shadows. Sometimes the monster is the friendly neighbor who drives you to chemo, makes you soup, and holds your hand, while waiting for the right moment to strike. What do you think? Was Pam Hupp simply greedy, or was she a born psychopath who enjoyed the game? And how did the police miss so many red flags? Let me know your theory in the comments below. If this story gave you chills, please hit that like button. It helps the channel get these stories out to more people. And don't forget to subscribe and ring the bell so you never miss a true dramatic courtroom story. Until next time, stay safe and watch who you trust.